Hello, my name is Victor Smith. I'll be talking about standpoint theory. My professor is Mark Gutierrez. English 2374, and this is for professional communication. The purpose of standpoint theory is the sociological framework that suggests that an individual's perspective, belief, and understanding of the world are shaped by their social position or standpoint within society. So basically, what this means to me is that standpoint theory is the way people grow up, how they perceive different situations, and how they view the world in their eyes compared to how other people see the world in their eyes and get a better understanding of how people act and react to certain situations at hand. Basically, this is just showing like an analogy would be with Smith was the train, a train going over a river, and a family just watching the train go over the river. But the people on the train can see the family looking at them on the hill. They like, oh, it's just a family looking at them, trying to watch the train go by. But standpoint theory shows that could be three completely different people just so happen to be on the hill who all are close to each other but don't know each other. But it's the perception that they look like they know each other and how the people on the train perceive it versus how the people on the hill perceive people on the train. Some background about standpoint theory. Dorothy Smith is a sociologist who illustrates the divine between the presumed objectivity and objective knowledge of the sociologist and our exclusion of the subjective. This stood out to me because as she was explaining how the family of the Native Americans was watching the train go by and how she already started to perceive that the family without even knowing where they come from and their experiences. They could have just been kids watching the sky, but their head placement was faced towards the train, was faced the train, or they could have been strangers and was just standing in a specific place. Smith is trying to get people to understand that we should not take advantage of our ability of speaking to create ideas that may not even be what we believe they are. And I got this from my book, Sociologist. I'll put it at the end. Some a method I use for my report. I have decided to do my field report on the student athletes that come into the administration's office in McCullough Hill on campus. I sat with Rachel Steinberg and Hannah Lance offices and observed the different athletes that come into the office and how they treated and responded. So basically, what I did, I went into their office and I sat in there for a couple hours at a time throughout last week at about I probably would say from 11 to 2. I would sit in there every other day and I would just observe the student athletes come in and leave and how they acted and how the administration reacted to what the student athlete needs, so on and so forth. Some findings that I found while observing the student athletes coming in and out of the administration office in McCullough, I found that student athletes tend to just walk into her office and assume that she knows who they are and what they need and how to go about the situation, but they don't go in there and like introduce themselves. They don't go in there and tell them like hello, good morning. They just walk in and be like, I need this, this and that, which is very disrespectful and I don't and that's something I just observed while go looking sitting in her office for a couple hours. And also usually she knows like she understands that some of them are usually freshmen and they haven't been inside of administration buildings like that, especially coming out of high school. So she understands like she gives them a little leeway, but all the older athletes they still come in and do it, and she does not appreciate that at all. Some things that I found while in Ms. Steinberg's office was that even though she's only been here for around 7 to 8 months, student athletes tend to respect her and her time. Steinberg had demanded respect from our student athletes to the point that they come to her office and they introduce themselves and express what they want and need from her. She also gives them a grace chance because she understands that she's new and they don't tend to do it intentionally. So she tells them, hey, you have one chance. You know, this is your grace period. But if you keep coming in and disrespecting me, then I will not help you, so on and so forth. A conclusion that I have noticed while observing Miss Hannah and Miss Steinberg, I noticed that the tone of voice for the student athletes t- is a show. Basically, what that means was when students talk to Miss Hannah, they're very sharp with their words and very quick, trying to get to the point so they like get in and get out. So as if they feel they don't like talking to her as much. But while talking to Miss Steinberg, students come in there and they're very soft spoken, they're very respectful. They ask her what they ask her about her day and ask her how she's doing and actually getting to know her. And that's two different observations that I have noticed while observing those two, and it was just a shock to me. And it was just like they're very cautious when talking to Miss Steinberg rather than Miss Hannah. Maybe because of a lot of students in the past that have said bad things about Miss Hannah. So maybe the old students saying bad stuff about Miss Hannah is getting put into the younger generation or the younger athletes, and they're just trying to avoid the situation altogether. And that's what I took from the situation. Consideration. I have noticed while observing the study, I enjoyed getting an understanding of how some student athletes feel entitled to anything and everything. I know that the tone of voice a person uses ultimately can affect the way a person looks at you in the long run and how they will treat you in the future. This was a huge eye opener for me because it makes me feel like I need to change my tone of voice when I'm talking to my friends and family because I could sound as if I am upset or irritated. And this was really big for me because I would never have expected student athletes to come in there and demand so much from people who are only doing their job and they take advantage of that due to the fact that it's their job instead of getting to know them personally, not getting to know them and ask them how their day is. They just go in there and demand without asking. And it was really huge.